Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening and Happy New Year to everyone here and those of you listening at home. Um, I think everything that could be said about 2020 has already been said last year. Like all of you, I was thrilled to turn the calendar onto 2021. And while our collective fortunes might not change overnight or in an instant, we are hopeful that our immediate future is far brighter than our immediate past. And I am excited to give you some of the updates that we have, not just from our holiday season, but also in what we see coming ahead. Thank you. So to begin our first meeting of the new year, I do, like those before me, just want to take a moment to publicly thank Mr. Abruzé. The chairman's 2-year term did conclude on December 31st, and the forced cancellation of our meeting on Monday, December 21st, denied him that chance to conclude his term from the chairman's seat, or for me to give this personal note back then. So I just wanted to take this time to mention what a pleasure it has been to work with Tom during my first year as superintendent. I cannot thank him enough for his guidance and support as I transitioned into this role. He has led the school committee through, as you all mentioned, a very tumultuous and unprecedented period with both skill and decisiveness. And under his leadership, the school committee, like you all mentioned, was awarded the All-State School Committee Award by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and that's no small accomplishment. And like each and every one of you, he really has been instrumental in helping the Everett Public Schools endure the endless variables and challenges and obstacles that have been posed over the past year, especially by the pandemic. So, Tom, I know I speak for all of us who didn't get to speak as well when I say thank you for that. I also want to congratulate our new chairman, Frank Parker, not only in being voted our new chairman here, but also in being recently elected as the secretary treasurer of the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Division 2, which includes 53 school districts in Massachusetts. I had the honor, like tonight, of being there on the evening that he was elected, and I was very proud to hear the amazing things that his colleagues around the state had to say about him when he was nominated and elected. So congratulations to him, and thank you to him as well for all the support that he has provided over the last year. So now for our regular update. Unfortunately, before we proceed, I did want to recognize the tremendous loss of in the Everett Public School community of on December 23rd of Christina Trovel, who was a beloved student at the Devon School. She passed away after a long and very courageous battle with complications from a second lung transplant. Devon School Principal Brian Wallace described Christina as being, a quiet student who loved to laugh and had a very witty and dry sense of humor. She engaged people with her kind, unassuming, and friendly demeanor. She enjoyed journaling, drawing, and singing. Our thoughts are with Christina and her family, with Christina's family. She will be missed, but never forgotten. And so I just wanted to take this moment to have a brief moment of silence in honor of Christina. Thank you all. Tonight's report begins with the announcement of an exciting partnership with a program called Technology Goes Home. It is an established Greater Boston-based organization with a proven track record of helping people access and utilize digital tools to overcome barriers and improve the quality of life of their participants. This has been a long-standing organization that I have actually been involved with in the past, but their mission mission is more important now than it ever has been. So TGH programs are directed at those without technology at home, with a focus on individuals who are from low-income households, have limited English proficiency, or are living with disabilities. So of the households that TGH serves, 75% have incomes under $35,000, and 30% of adult learners are unemployed. Nearly 50% of TGH learners are from immigrant families, and 85% are people of color. So the EPS will offer a program for parents and guardians with students between the ages of 3 and 6, and the second for those with students in grades 1 through 12. So under our partnership, we will be able to offer the courses in English, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Spanish. So the first phase of this partnership will be the training of our personnel to become TGH certified instructors, who will then lead the classes and deliver the content to our families. So before I give you some more information about TGH, I just wanted to thank my central office staff for working tirelessly on making this partnership a reality this school year. Special thanks to Deputy Superintendent Kim Sai, Chief Financial Officer Anu Giant, English Learner Coordinator Ann Auger, and Budget and Grants Director Shirley Pang, as well as Executive Associate of Project Implementation Adeline Celestin, for recognizing that TGH is ideal for the EPS community, and then pushing very hard to work with TGH to get this initiative crossed over the finish line. So in teaming with TGH, we are taking steps to fulfill our core value of empowering our community by creating meaningful and collaborative relationships that promote excellence for everyone in the EPS, including our parents. So from a practical standpoint, the TGH program will help our families to stay continually engaged in their students' education. Taking a closer look at the partnership, the TGH Early Childhood Program is for families with young children between the ages of 3 to 6. The course is taught using iPads by early education specialists who are certified TGH instructors. Designed for the parent or caregiver, the curriculum is built around educational and social emotional learning apps that focus on early language, literacy, and STEAM skill building. So families get to practice those early learning strategies and discuss the challenges and opportunities in parenting with technology. So families who successfully complete the course will then receive a cost-free iPad to keep. The program for grade 1 through 12 families encourages parent-school engagement and gives the student and adult caregiver an opportunity to learn together. So the curriculum focuses on fundamental digital skills and topics such as using Google Apps for school and work, finding apps and websites for learning and play, tracking grades and attendance online, finding after school and academic programs, and accessing web-based family resources. So families successfully complete the course then will receive a cost-free Chromebook. Again, that is theirs to keep. So each course concludes with a graduation ceremony, which from my past experience with TGH is a genuinely special moment for the families. And I look forward to all of you getting to experience this as well here in the Everett Public Schools. Obviously, I will share further updates on this as we roll out our process in the coming weeks and months. So since we last met, the Greater Boston League postponed the start of winter interscholastic sports. So our athletic director, Tammy Turner, and her GBL colleagues continually are working to formulate a plan that will eventually lead to our student athletes returning to action at some point during the balance of the school year. So a meeting is scheduled tomorrow, so we will have more information about this at our next school committee meeting. What I can say, without question, is that all parties involved have the very best interest of our students at heart. The GBL's initial plan for winter sports was incredibly detailed and thoughtful, which is why I endorsed it and you approved it. But local health officials did make the recommendation to postpone based on their analysis of available data and their consultation with state agencies and medical professionals. And that was also seen in other districts as well. So the GBL got together to collectively make this decision to support all of us as a collective group. And if everyone continues to work as diligently and collaboratively hopefully in the future, I know that that will only serve to benefit our students and get them back to their activities in a way that is, safe and sustainable. Also, just a quick reminder to our families that if your student is planning to try out for basketball or hockey, to please complete all of the necessary paperwork, including a current physical, to send to the EHS athletic department. And any questions that anyone has can be directed to our athletic director, Tammy Turner. So the district has, as we have mentioned before, taken possession of enough Medify air purifiers for every classroom and main office in our district. So they are already out in the classrooms. They're being utilized in our special education classrooms and by teachers who have elected to work from their classrooms. They're also in our offices. Mine was there today when I came into my office. So we are also in the process, not just of using those, we are also still in the process of procuring high-powered air purifiers that kill germs as well. So we expect to receive those shortly. Later tonight, you will be voting to accept a significant donation from the Disabled Veterans Camp Corporation Scholarship, which will allow us to continue to present $1,000 scholarships to deserving Everett High School students every June. So I just wanted to give a special thanks to City Councilor and Everett Attorney Fred Capone, who has meticulously handled the logistics of ensuring that the scholarship is secure. He represents the Everett Disabled American Veterans Chapter 51, and thanks to the longtime efforts of members such as Richard F. Horgan, Richard Connelly, John Troy, and there's another one that I'm forgetting, I'm so sorry. The chapter presents a scholarship to an EHS senior who is planning to attend a four-year college or university to pursue a career in medicine and or the health sciences. The trustee, pursuant to the terms of the trust, recently decided that coordinating the scholarship fund is best left to the Everett Public Schools, which can then carry on this tradition every June by awarding what is officially called the Disabled Veterans Camp Corporation Janet Connelly O'Neill Memorial Scholarship. So the late Janet Connelly O'Neill, as you all know, was a beloved Everett educator and a former Webster School assistant principal. And as of the end of the year, we had received donations from the DAV that brought the total of the scholarship to a little under $23,000. Or $30,000, sorry, ensuring 23 years of uninterrupted scholarships to deserving students. So I just wanted to again thank you, Mr. Capone and the DAV for your dedication to the Everett Public Schools. Later tonight, you will also vote to accept a significant donation from Exelon Generation and Everett Kiwanis Club for making very generous donations to our students in time for the holiday season. So actually, we may have already voted on those. Sorry. These donations were used to help support the events that are being held at our elementary schools that were held over the holidays. So Exelon, for the third year in a row, graciously donated 300 winter coats, which are pictured here, to our students through a collaboration with Operation Warm, while the Kiwanis Club generously gave the district 480 sets of hats and gloves. It was a pleasure to meet Archie Gleeson, finally in person. I've gotten to email him before. He's Exelon's Northeast Region General Manager, as well as several dedicated Kiwanians when they made these donations to our students earlier this month at the Lafayette School. So I also want to thank our principals, our teachers, and staff members for leading donation efforts in our individual schools. So, obviously the gratitude that we are extended to the countless people, businesses, and organizations. I haven't listed all of them, but there were so many that generously donated to us during the EPS holiday season. So I want to take this moment to thank all of them who made all of our holiday activities possible. And continuing with the theme of wonderful partnerships, I would also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Everett Bank and its President and Chief Financial Officer, Richard O'Neill. The bank, which has a long tradition of supporting district and our community, presented 1,000 gifts to the Adams, English, Caverian, Lafayette, Parlin, Webster, and the Whittier schools. A big shout out also to Mayor Carlo Di Maria, who facilitated this donation on behalf of our students and helped to organize this fantastic presentation at Everett's Bank location on Broadway. So in the photo above, Mr. O'Neill, the mayor, and myself are pictured with principals Chris Barrett, Dennis Lynch, Teresa Tringali, Dave Brady, Mike McLucas, and Alex Nauman, and the Everett Teachers Association President Kim Auger. The longer I have the pleasure of serving as superintendent, the more I, get used to the tremendously loyal partners we have in businesses such as Everett Bank. That by no means suggests that I will ever take these relationships for granted. I'm constantly overwhelmed by their continued generosity, and I just want to thank them and all of our generous donors. So on to more logistical aspects. The state is requiring students, I'm sure you've all heard, to receive a flu vaccine now by February 28th, 2021. Ensuring that our students receive a flu vaccine is an important step in reducing flu-related illness and the overall impact of respiratory illness during the COVID-19 pandemic. So this rule does apply to all students, regardless of whether they are participating in remote learning or attending in-person classes. So our school nurses have been contacting families to remind them of this new rule. And I would like to take this moment to remind our community about this important change. So the city does offer free flu vaccines, which you can schedule by calling 617-394-2255. In addition, the website www.vaccinefinder.org is a good source to consult. We also have all of the pertinent flu vaccine information posted on our EPS website in our district updates section under the resources tab. So before Christmas, we had sent out a flyer in our primary languages about the flu vaccine requirement as well, and school by school contact information. So we are asking all of our families to please email, fax, or mail their students proof of flu vaccine to their school nurse. So our safe and socially distanced holiday drive-through events were simply fantastic. They were, glowing examples of the tremendously impactful partnerships that do exist between our schools and the Everett community at large. Again, like I mentioned before, time does not permit me to thank everyone who made these celebrations so joyous and so successful. But from volunteer organizations to PTO members to staff and administrators, there are far too many people to recognize and to thank for bringing joy to our students and families. And while there is no question that we distributed a significant amount of toys, gift cards, goodie bags, books, and other materials, I think the best part was definitely the holiday drive-throughs, where there were opportunities for, even though brief and socially distanced, genuinely happy interactions amongst our teachers, students, parents, and colleagues. Some highlights actually include the Parlin School walkthrough event, which attracted approximately 450 students, each of whom received a gift card, hot chocolate, a candy cane, and a book. And all the Parlin community raised more than $3,500 for its holiday events. And if that wasn't enough, actually, the school raised more than $13,000 from various individuals and businesses for the Parlin PTO. So that was really incredible. The Lafayette School staff raised more than $2,200 to buy gift cards for families in need. The Cavarian School PTO organized a massive toy drive in which every student who attended the event was given a new age-appropriate toy. At the Whittier School, toys and gift cards were distributed to families in need, thanks to the, again, aforementioned Everett Bank gift, as well as the generous annual toy donation made by chiropractor Dr. Brian Leahy. And at the Madeline English School, a large contingent of staff members who were on hand to greet students and families included a teacher, Jamie Beauregard, who dressed up as Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And in closing, a special thanks to the Everett Police Department, including Officer Eric Williamson, who was our Santa Claus at the Cavarian School, as well as Department of Public Works, and everyone from the city who supported our holiday events. So switching to attendance, I did want to give you a quick update on our latest figures. There have been no significant changes in recent weeks, which is, good unto itself. As the 62nd day of school, more than 5,600 of our students have an attendance rate of 90% or higher, including 2,321 students who are boasting perfect attendance. The district's daily attendance average is 93%, which is equal to historical data from the past decade. And also, I know I had mentioned previously that we did have 13 students who earlier in the year had not logged in to our e-education. We have been continuing to track contact with those families of students who were struggling, and we have actually been able to re-engage a student. There were several students, as we suspected, who were being discharged because of moving, so there were about 7 of those. So now we are in only a handful of students that we are still working with, where we know all of their respective scenarios, whether it is they have had to relocate because somebody in their house has COVID, they need a new Wi-Fi hotspot. So we're doing whatever we can in order to make sure that just those handful of students who are remaining are able to access the education that they need. So the next 2 parts of our presentation will be in regard to our COVID-19 report, followed by an update on introducing fully hybrid learning model for our school. So at first, these may seem in conflict with each other, just for the simple fact that positivity rates continue to be very high in our community. In fact, our metrics do continue, like many other communities, to demand caution. But while we cannot ignore or wish away unfavorable conditions, we certainly can develop a plan, and we have been all year, that is ready to activate as soon as the circumstances allow. So our energies are focused on opening more classrooms as we move into the second part of the school year. Our optimism remains in check and making sure that we are putting all safeguards in place, but it is not deterred or shaken. So shifting to the numbers themselves, the graph on the left shows Everett's daily incidence rates and that the city's total cases and percent positivity. So since we were last together, daily new cases in Everett climbed above 50 per day, and the percent positivity now tops 10%. So the Centers for Disease Control does recommend reopening schools when case rates are below 20 and percent positivity is below 5%. So in this next slide, as we continue, these, again, various slides and charts re-emphasize the concerning coronavirus trends in our community. So going back to summertime, this graph shows the persistent increase in total cases on the right y-axis, along with how many tests the city has administered on the left y-axis. I would like to send a special thank you to everyone at the local, regional, and state levels who have administered testing programs and lead contract tracing efforts in our communities. Regular and reliable data are not insignificant considerations as we do try to find some genuine peace of mind during this crisis. The next 2 slides show how over a 2-week average, Everett's percent positivity continues to increase. So this chart also includes a 14-day testing average that took an expected dip over the holiday week, which is good. Again, the key line here, though, is the gold one that signals a climb to over 10% in positivity. Relatedly, this chart shows the 14-day case count and percent positivity. So the almost 800 known cases in Everett is no doubt surpassed by asymptomatic carriers in our community. Members of the Everett Public Schools community should continue to get tested, wear masks, and socially distance until they are vaccinated, which will hopefully be soon. In the meantime, we are not losing hope or resolve, and encourage everyone else to do the same. Every smart health and safety decision that we do make today, we do believe will pay dividends in the future. So no sacrifice is too trivial to ignore. And we just want to thank everybody for keeping up their vigilance as time goes on, and even through the holidays, which I know was especially challenging for everyone. As of Saturday, January 2nd, the total number of confirmed cases in Everett stood at 5,449. All of us are anxious to see this line drop and flatten out, and we are hopeful that this will be the case as we move away from the holiday season. I do applaud the countless people, again, who have led the COVID-19 prevention efforts in our community, as well as brave and selfless medical professionals, hospital staff, frontline workers, and our essential employees. Again, Everett is not in this alone. There are now 191 Massachusetts communities in the high risk category, with our city ranked at number 9. So this is just, again, another reminder to us to continue to stay vigilant about using the best safety practices at all times. And a look at the statistics from our Department of Public Health showed that December saw 250 Everett residents under the age of 19 diagnosed with COVID-19. So obviously this is the age group that covers our student population, and our response team reminds us to pay close attention to the numbers in this age group as we roll out any plans for more in-person teaching and learning. So the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, as many of you may have already heard, has introduced new standards for structured learning time for districts using fully remote models. So these valuable new guidelines do not require any significant or burdensome adjustments on our part, which is wonderful. Specifically, DESE has been requiring districts to provide a minimum of 40 hours of synchronous or face-to-face instruction over 2 academic weeks. And none of the days during that period can be fully asynchronous. So we are already exceeding this requirement at Everett High, so no changes are needed in grades 9 through 12. In grades 1 through 8, we will meet this requirement by adding 30 minutes per day of live synchronous instruction with a teacher into our education schedule. So adding that into what is already our developed schedules. So this change is not mandated for kindergarten. We are exploring adding a little bit of synchronous time for kindergartners, but we want to first consult with our teachers and principals to determine if that is appropriate. So we are still working on doing that. So this schedule change will take effect on Tuesday, January 19th, and families will hear directly from their teachers and their principals, who have been given the freedom to collaborate to best utilize these minutes based on their regular communications with each other and the detailed knowledge they have about their students. So to use one example, the 30-minute block could be added to a math and or ELA class to more closely mirror the 90-minute blocks we use during in-person instruction. Or in grades 1 through 3, principals are also exploring dedicated 30-minute social studies blocks, while at present, social studies is in many instances included in a writing block. Another option is to keep the schedules the same, but simply add an equal number of minutes to each existing block. So these 30 minutes of synchronous instructional time would be taken from the asynchronous virtual learning block that currently exists at the end of the day. So again, all of these examples of changes would be within the current schedules that our students and families have grown accustomed to, so that it wouldn't be too much of a disruption to what our families are already doing. The bottom line is that, we believe that the addition of this virtual face-to-face time will be employed thoughtfully and meaningfully by our teachers, with the result being added time to cover more of the essential content for each grade level, to allow more opportunities for teachers to check out how well their students are understanding the material, and to provide additional activities for deep mastery of concepts. So as we design a blueprint for hybrid learning, our foundation will be based on 4 considerations, which can be described as safety, best practices, technology, and staffing. So safety comes first, and much of what we are doing is a continuation of the plans that we've already made at the outset of the year. So we've taken possession of Medify air purifiers, purchased air filters. We are exploring the purchase of we are purchasing even stronger air purifiers. We have the necessary masks and gloves we need, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies, and an effective disinfectant spray. So we will also be utilizing the Binex Now rapid testing, which I mentioned previously, which is a cost-free product being offered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Defense. So this test has been proven to be fast and reliable, especially for large organizations such as ours. So our goal is to finalize these details within the next 2 weeks, with the hope of starting to transition some of our grades into hybrid by Q3. So we are still in final conversations about this, obviously with the ETA and with our various subcommittees, but our thoughts right now are that we would be able to start at the start of Q3, and to, instead of going hybrid all at once, our health advisory did recommend that we take a more slow and steady approach. So we would potentially start with K-2, our sub-separate classes, any who are not already back, and perhaps our seniors, and then transition from there, so that hopefully by the end of February we could be fully transitioned in. So these are our thoughts right now, or the current conversations that are happening right now that should be finalized very soon. Up next is the honing on best practices. So to begin, we have reached out to our virtual learning leaders for recommendations on how to best transition from fully remote to hybrid. So we will be implementing the lessons we've learned from the in-person special education services at the Deffins and the Lafayette schools. On a small scale, we have tested the equipment we have on hand to literally see how it works during a hybrid class to make sure we have everything we need. Since our e-education model is already in place, we do have the option to pilot hybrid learning at certain grade levels, and like I mentioned, for certain cohorts of students. So this will give us the chance to implement, review, and kind of refine each phase of the plan. We have surveyed our teachers too to help determine the feasibility of various programs. For example, it is unlikely that we may have enough qualified teachers and instructors to restart our CTE programs at Everett High. So we are making plans to expand classes and programs in order to make sure that we do have all of our students accommodated. We are also positioned to expand classes and programs for special education students and our English learners. On technology, we are far down the road. For this, I wanted to thank all of you for supporting our initial efforts to put a digital infrastructure in place in August. So your leadership has allowed us to purchase Mac laptops, for teachers, Chromebooks, iPads for students, while outfitting most of our classrooms with a desktop computer, speaker system, and an interactive whiteboard. And so because of this, we do have a foundation upon which we can build these hybrid classrooms. So final pieces to the puzzle include multi-directional speakers so that students who are participating on Zoom can hear their classmates who are in our classrooms, and purchasing upgraded versions of the software Pear Deck and Nearpod, which can then foster interactive instruction by helping teachers utilize the products they already use, such as Google Slides. So by doing this, teachers will then be able to work with software they're already comfortable with to create the best possible hybrid environment. On the staffing front, we are hiring long-term substitute teachers, and we are utilizing a paraprofessional recall list. We are also interviewing for various in-house technology staff positions so that we can better support school leaders and our educators. And we are also looking at a dedicated professional development day to help our teachers prepare for hybrid learning. So all of this will be held up by the strong foundation we have built in remote learning. Again, you all had the foresight to support our approach, which I can't thank you for enough, which has enabled us to meet the specific demands of e-education. And we do believe that our teachers and staff are positioned to merge their natural teaching skills and abilities with their digital repertoire, and that they've honed since the beginning of the school year in order to embark upon our hybrid model. So how do we accomplish this? And how do we put these ideas into action? So this slide sort of gives you an overview of the major cost considerations associated with the implementation of the core aspects of our hybrid plan. So first and foremost, we have to make sure that we have the staff necessary to meet the needs of any and all students for both parts of a hybrid model. So we must be prepared to hire long-term substitute teachers and paraprofessionals to account for staff that might take leaves of absence instead of returning to their classrooms. Additionally, staffing needs will be determined in part by how many students elect to continue with remote learning only, which in turn, of course, impacts the composition of our classrooms. And as you all know, if students and families do opt for full remote, we are required to give that, even if we are in a hybrid model like other districts around the Commonwealth. So we're trying to figure out or have been working on what the cost implications are for that, especially when it comes to staffing. Up next are our transportation costs, which we can base on past invoices as a starting point, but we must also account for the fact that we will require more buses to allow for social distancing. And last, but certainly not least, are the materials we need to make sure our students and staff are safe while we wait for the pandemic to be eradicated. So as we switch slides, we can take a closer look at what we believe to be the budget impacts for going for reopening in a hybrid model. So taking a deeper look at this hybrid plan, these line items total a little more than $5.1 million. So this includes all of the must-haves we need to safely reopen. So as you can see, this is a list. This list is straightforward and very much anticipated given the realities of the pandemic. So these are the materials that we will need to use continually to facilitate the repeated and regular comings and goings of staff. So this list envisions one addition to our team who's a person who will serve as the district's COVID response safety liaison. So we do not view this hiring as an extra or a luxury. We actually have a thick new layer of essential guidelines that need to be followed across all buildings at all times. And it's a responsibility that will only expand as more students return to school. Already, the staff that we currently have are stretched very thin, making sure that they are following all these guidelines, implementing them with the contact tracing, working with, the different staff. So we would need to hire a dedicated person who would be able to take all of that on as all of our students start returning to the buildings. In our experiences with the e-learning centers and at the Devens, Lafayette, and Webster schools, we have shown that issues do come up that demand attention simultaneously as well. So current administrators and academic leaders who are assuming some of these responsibilities right now will need to return to a more normal workflow as we do have hybrid back in place, which is why that would be necessary. So in this next slide, this next slide gives you a breakdown of the costs associated with staffing, transportation, and other needs for a return to hybrid. So you will note that there is some overlap between this cost analysis and the EPS investment plan that the school committee endorsed late last year. So we firmly believe that these investments are connected and that there are elements to our overall budget plan that are vital to a successful and efficient return to school. So the items that are highlighted in yellow are not a part of our investment plan. So of this group, the largest figures are the $1.3 million to hire 40 long-term substitute teachers and the $1.6 million in transportation costs. So as just, a quick note, before we move on, we have been talking a lot about the budget investment plan. And I just wanted to clarify because I feel like there are some misconceptions around this investment plan and the original purpose of it. So when we came up with the budget investment plan that we presented at the School Finance Review Commission and gave to the city, that was actually in response to us asking for the $471,000 reimbursement. And we were asked, well, if there were extra funds or if this is now extra money or you have extra funds in special education transportation, we want to know what you're going to be spending it on. And we do internally have sort of this vision for the whole child that I presented at our last school committee meeting for how we are making investments. And we have tiered out the investments that we would like to make over time, knowing full well that we are not going to be able to make them. So when we turned over that budget investment plan, it was to show that, in the case that there are funds that can be reallocated from one line to another, we do have a holistic whole child approach for how we are going to be spending those funds. It's not going to be spent willy-nilly or at what do we think we need right now? No, we have a very comprehensive plan, that is based on our vision of the whole child in Everett, and that's how we would spend those funds. Never did we anticipate that we were going to have a lot of extra funds, though. So again, that budget investment plan was just in a response to that ask for what would you do if you did have extra funds. I feel like that has sort of turned into this narrative that we are going to have extra funds. And so I kind of want to clarify that that is not the case. In fact, with a move to hybrid, and especially the sooner that move is, the hybrid model, and this can be checked out in other districts as well, is far more expensive to run than either the remote model or a full in-person model. So these line items that I've presented to you are some of the anticipated costs for returning to hybrid, which again does end up being more expensive, and things like long-term subs, and then there are unanticipated, costs that do come up that we're trying to anticipate as much as possible by working with districts that have already started their hybrid models. So that's where we do have some benefit to their expertise by being able to kind of predict. But again, none of us know what the end of this school year is going to look like. So so again, I just want to really separate those two things, because that was, again, just an ask to show that yes, we are going to spend, if there is even one or two or three extra dollars, and I even cringe at the term extra, because this is all within our bottom line budget, so it's not extra. These are Everett dollars allocated to Everett students, or students dollars allocated to students, that it would just be, how are we reinvesting the funds that we had already allocated to them, to make sure that we're doing so strategically. Unfortunately, because of the addition of, a hybrid model, we don't believe that we are going to have, this grand, surplus of funds that it seems that others believe we might. And so I just wanted to really reiterate that, because I feel like our presentation of the investment plan was in response to something we were asked about what if, or but that was only in order to get back the reimbursement, to show that no, if any of those dollars that are reimbursed are somehow extra, which we don't believe they will be, we would have other smart places to invest them. But again, we do not believe that that's the case. And so the hybrid model is going to be expensive. And we are trying to make sure that we are going to expend every dollar to not only meet our basic needs in the hybrid model, but to also, yes, continue to invest in our students in a way that is strategic, that is smart, and that does then meet our eventual mission to support the whole child. And then finally, I want to bring your attention to the Mass General Law regarding the creation of a stabilization fund. So per state law, school districts can appropriate funds to a stabilization fund to pay for unanticipated or unbudgeted costs for special education, out of district tuition, or transportation. So later tonight, Mr. Parker does have an item calling for the school committee to establish such a reserve, a question that all of you will have the chance to discuss. But first, I believe it will be helpful to just introduce some of the basics of a stabilization fund. So under state law, the balance of such funds cannot exceed 2% of the annual net school spending of the school district, which for us would be a maximum of approximately $2.2 million. And there are meaningful advantages of doing this. So first, it protects against mid-year layoffs or cuts due to an unexpected surge in mandated and immediate special education costs, a scenario that has actually disrupted this district in the past. Second, a reserve fund potentially bolsters a municipality in securing the best possible bond rating. Third, the fund can be established in a way that makes the money accessible only by a vote of the school committee and the city council. So there are checks and balances. Lastly, some communities in the Commonwealth have agreements that call for Medicaid revenue to be transferred into a school stabilization fund. So as I said, there will be time for you all to debate and question the merits of this proposal. From my view, it does make sense. Many people in the community, including members of the School Finance Review Commission, have expressed a strong concern about unforeseen expenses and developments. So while this is a laudable concern, it is also true that there is no way for a school district to predict every variable that might reveal itself during the school year. But still, this is a prudent way to meet the city's financial concerns while ensuring that we are making the best possible outcomes for our students.